And welcome to another show. You know, we consumers pay the price for costlier and higher impact data breaches, and that's according to a new IBM security report. And it reveals that over-trusting critical infrastructure, paying ransom demands, and a lack of cloud security, they're key weaknesses for businesses. My special guest is Limor Kessem, Principal Consultant of Cyber Crisis Management, IBM Security. Welcome, Limor.
Hi, thank you.
Well, cyber attacks, they've evolved over the past 2 years into market-moving movements, such as the Colonial Pipeline, JBS Meats attacks that disrupted supply, and the impact, apparently, of this disruption is now being felt in higher prices for goods and services amidst record high inflation and supply chain strains. IBM, your new 2022 Cost of a Data Breach Report, it's revealed how and why these higher impact data breaches have influenced the pricing of goods and services. Share that with us if you would.
Definitely. So we're seeing that more and more businesses are targeted by cyber attacks, and they suffer very high costs in order to handle and recover from these attacks. They've gotten very expensive. We're standing at $4.35 million on average per attack, and that's a 13% increase over the past 2 years. The end result is that businesses that are already stretched thin have to pass on some of the costs to their consumers, whether it be, another part in their supply chain, maybe a customer that we don't directly shop with or do business with, but another part of the supply chain, or the actual consumer, especially in those cases you mentioned is a very direct hit. If there's a pipeline problem and it's a shortage, you cannot get gas. It's a very direct link. But it's not the only thing. Sometimes a supply chain can see impact from one attack, end up impacting 3-4 suppliers down the line, and all of them have to increase costs. Then the costs are rolled over to consumers. And 83% of the companies we talked to said this wasn't just one time.
Wow. As if we don't have enough problems, you know what I mean? It would seem that cyber criminals, they've found leverage in these organizations, critical role in global supply chains with apparent effects.
Indeed.
Walk us through some of the cyber attack trends, if you would, of 2022. And, if we've learned anything at all from these attacks.
Indeed, yes, we are always learning, especially from looking at actual cases. We're seeing a persistence of two types of attacks that are very costly and lengthy to recover from. One of them is called a ransomware attack. That's when a criminal is able to get into the network and lock up all the data, meaning making it inaccessible. So think about going to a hospital. They need to get your electronic record to look at information about you, or maybe what you're allergic to, or what you might have, and they can't. And that just puts your life at risk, right? And then other attacks are destructive attacks, where a criminal will do the same and then say, you know what, if you don't pay me, you're not getting your data back. I'm destroying it, destroying everything and making all the devices inoperable. Most of these attacks come from an adversarial nation state, for example. Both of those are costly matters for victimized companies. We saw that about a third of all the breaches we looked at were caused by either ransomware or a destructive attack. And this is showing us that attackers are really betting on disruption, making sure that they have a lot of leverage to maybe force their victim's hand into paying a ransom. They're also going after those critical infrastructure, the backbone of the economy. And this is a group of sectors that are healthcare, communication, transportation, energy, technology, industrial firms, and financial services, just to name a few. Because this is where they know there's a big sensitivity to downtime, because every hour is going to cost a lot of money. Customers are going to be maybe at risk, or other things can happen. And we talked about supply chain shortages and stuff like that. So that's right there in these industrial or transportation companies that have been suffering a lot of these attacks. We talk about industrial companies in this sense, but nobody is immediately thinking about a baby formula shortage, for example, that has been experienced lately.
Right.
So these are the kinds of things that attackers are doing that we could learn from the trends.
Well, it sounds like they have sit down and plan all the things in life that are going to affect us directly. I mean, this is war in its own right, isn't it, without firing a shell?
It is.
Unbelievable.
It is, and the sophistication is rising on all fronts. There is no doubt about it.
Well, the thing that frightens me too, which no doubt you've looked into, I was reading a report the other night about 11 of our substations. You know, I mean, if we go dark, we're in serious trouble. What can we do about that in protecting all of our electricity and power and energy, as you say, across America?
So, last year, the Biden administration has released a special executive order telling all these critical infrastructure sectors, your security needs to get better. And also giving indicative, what you have to do to get the security better, like using certain doctrines. Something called zero trust was a big thing, as in, limiting the access to your networks in a very, in a smarter way. So they're not telling go buy things, they're saying do things differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And their report is showing us that 80% of critical infrastructure companies still haven't even started on that journey.
Good
so they're
Lord.
still a lot, really behind. They really have to catch up and start doing these things, focusing a lot on detection, like knowing when something is going wrong a lot earlier in the game. It's just like somebody comes into your house, a thief comes into the house. The longer they're wandering around the house, they're dwelling, the worse it is. The worse they're going to find more things to get. And the same thing goes with attackers. They're going to look for data. They're going to look for backups. They're going to have more leverage the longer they're in the system. So detecting them sooner, using automation, using artificial intelligence, using, depends on your security budget. If you have the budget, do something called threat hunting. So looking for maybe an attacker wandering around, things like that. And of course, also, another thing that's super important is you can't always prevent everything. It's what you do when something goes wrong. Having a plan, a very detailed and robust plan that goes from the technical side all the way to your executive team is how everybody comes together to contain and stop the crisis.
What does concern me, Limor, is the cloud security immaturity. I mean, there's so much today that we're doing off the cloud, and we're pushed that way. Whether you're a one-man business or a major corporation, 43% of studied organizations, they're in the early stages or they've not started applying security practices across their cloud environments. Observing something like $660,000 higher breach costs on average than organizations with mature security across cloud environments. I mean, what is IBM doing about that?
So, during the pandemic, what happened is a lot of companies, big and small, even mom and pop shops, had to push up to work remotely and start using cloud and cloud services and cloud, different things that they're using that are served out of a cloud. But they weren't able to at the same time make the same investment or even invest the same amount of strategy into cloud security. And that has resulted in more vulnerability up in the cloud, although clouds can be very well secured. And it's easier to secure a cloud than it is to secure, big servers that you have in the back room. Mm-hmm. It's a lot easier when it comes to it. And companies that use hybrid clouds, which means they use, different clouds and some stuff was in-house and others weren't, they had the lowest breach costs. So it's not the cloud itself, it's rather the cloud security. And what IBM is doing on that front is offering open security concepts. We have cloud security. We also offer cloud services, and we offer a lot of services around that to help companies detect, prepare, manage identities. There's really a very large suite of services around there.
So, whether you're a small business, medium or large, would you recommend they visit your site and share that with us, where they should go to read up on this?
I definitely think, even if nobody has to buy anything, they get a lot of information and a lot of intelligence for what we publish to help companies. So they can go to ibm.com/security, or they can search IBM intelligence or anything like that on the internet, and they're going to find out a lot of information that is free of charge that they can use and enjoy.
Okay, and I think you touched on earlier something about there's a free download as well that can help out called Cost of a Data Breach. Is that right?
So Cost of a Data Breach is this report that we have now, and they can go and search that. But there is also, when we talk about ransomware, we have something called the Definitive Guide to Ransomware, which I personally wrote. And they can go and download that and get a whole lot of information of what to do, how to detect, how to respond, and even more than that. So that
Fabulous.
is also a recommended resource.
Oh, that's good. I'm going for that myself, believe me. Thank you. It's Limor doing a great job, and thank God for IBM. Good luck. Keep doing what you're doing, won't you?
Thank you.